Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode where we're going to talk about why you're not getting hired and what to do about it. No matter when you're listening to this, the job market stinks right now. But you know what? The job market stunk when I came out of college. The job market has stunk before, it will stink again. There are some easy things you can change that are going to give you a lot less stress, and the companies you're interviewing with are going to be like, whoa, we need to hire this person immediately. So let's get into it, shall we? First of all, when you're going into these interviews, I know your fight or flight gets triggered and you're like, oh my God, I don't know why I can't talk. And the minutes leading up to this call, I can't breathe and I'm pacing my house and I'm freaking out. I know. I've been that person before too. Some of this comes with experience, but when it comes to calming your nerves and just acting like yourself, there's some quick, easy, like pre-interview tips that we'll get into first. First of all, do some prep work. Like look up the company, come up with some questions. Even ask ChatGPT, copy their homepage and be like, what are some open-ended questions I could ask this company about like why they're mission driven, why this is their mission, whatever. You never want to be that person that goes into interviews where they're like, do you have any questions? And you're like, nope, because I really need a paycheck. So you should be curious and be wanting to ask your own questions. And some of those could even be like, how many customers do you have? How many employees do you have? Sometimes that's not addressed. You could ask the person who's doing your phone screen, like, hey, why do you like working there? Sometimes people hesitate and some people will say, it's a nightmare and I'm on my way out. But you want to seem really interested. So do some pre-work and figure out, like write them down and figure out what some questions are that you have so that you're not scrambling at the last minute when they do ask. Going into your phone screen or your video phone screen, whatever it is, take some deep breaths. I know this sounds like duh, but there's actually some science to this that if you front load your body with oxygen, you will have more in your reserves. And when we get nervous, we tend to take shallow breaths and not deep breaths. So honestly, like in the minutes leading up to your interview, you're going to want to take some deep breaths, push out all your carbon dioxide and like front load yourself with oxygen. And you don't want to do it until you hyperventilate. If you start to black out, that is plenty of oxygen, my friend. Good job. In the moments leading up, we're not breathing correctly. So give your body some oxygen. A mind trick that I tell people is pretend like you're a consultant. Pretend like they've booked time with you because they desperately need your help and you're an expert because you are. So don't go into it like, oh my gosh, what are they going to ask me? Go into it like, oh, these poor people. I wonder what questions they'll have that I could answer. I talk about this a lot on the show. Don't be a character acting in the movie. Be the director behind the camera that's recording the scene, okay? You are in complete control over how you come across more than you think, and a lot of it is your mindset. Other people tell me they get nervous because they're not they don't have experience in the industry that they're interviewing for. So they say like, they asked me, I've never worked in healthcare, so how could I do it? I'm like, yeah, but you've worked in manufacturing. Don't they both have frontline employees? Don't they have unique challenges and safety concerns that are like similar? Don't they have the communication barriers of getting the frontline workers to know the company announcements and live out the values? And like, you have to spin the story. You're not going to be a perfect fit for every job, but you can become a master storyteller of why you're excellent for the job because you're great at what you do, no matter the industry. So you can find creative ways to say, I may not have worked in healthcare yet, but my experience with getting such a diverse workforce all on the same page and making sure we're giving them a great employee experience so that there's less turnover, they have better interactions with customers or clients, and they stay longer, they collaborate better. Gallup's done a bunch of research on how the employee experience drives engagement, and my passion is right in there. So I'm great at helping employees do their best work. You can answer the question and be truthful, but also stand out against the crowd from people who do have industry experience. Don't think that just because you haven't worked in that industry that there's not a way to spin it. If you've worked in only small companies, you say the small HR game is just as tricky and nuanced, and maybe you've worn many hats. I hate that cliche phrase, but you could say, because I've done it all, I'm really excited to specialize in this for this role. I know I do this really well. Or if you're going big company size to small and they're like, you've never worked in tech. You've never worked for a high growth startup. We only have 40 employees. Why do you want this job? You say, I've seen what scaling looks like. I've seen a big workforce coming together all as one to blah, 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 whatever your mission was for your company and what you were doing for them and getting employees to care. You'd love to help make that happen sooner because now you've seen what it can look like at scale. There's always a way to spin the story. And I know this sounds kind of goofy too, but when you jump on the call, whether you are on video or you're on the phone, you smile. You smile like you've never smiled before. And you don't have to make sure it meets your eyes because like a dead smile is like a serial killer. A real genuine smile is like you're happy to see them. Use the interviewer's name. Whoever's doing your phone screen, hey, Rachel, it's so good to see you. Visit their LinkedIn profile and figure out something you have in common. Maybe you're both from the Midwest. Maybe you both have worked a similar role before. You want to use their name and mention something that you have in common. Hey, Rachel, it's so good to see you. And they'll be like, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm good. You know what's so funny? I was looking at your LinkedIn before the call and I noticed insert thing you have in common that you can talk about and bond over. I'm promising you this works. If you can bond a little bit with the phone screener, they are much more likely to pass you through no matter how goofy some of your other answers can be. You want a relationship built with this person. They're your first line of defense that you have to get to see that even if you don't have an extroverted personality, this can be faked. But also, this is a skill that you need in your career regardless. It's called soft skills. It's your ability to communicate and build relationships with people, get them to trust you, get them to listen to you, and see you as a leader, see you as influential. Because you are. Now, I've also found that when I was being interviewed and the people that I've been coaching, you tend to get asked the same questions. And trust me, I have flubbed so many interviews, but I would notice patterns. Whatever I was interviewing for, I tended to get asked sort of the same questions. So I started to keep a log of what my answers were to that. It was a good journaling exercise. I was typing it, but I was like, I tend to be asked, so tell me a little bit about yourself or something like that, something vague because they're burned out too. But I noticed my answer to that was way too long. You don't want to be monologue-y in your answers. You want to really keep your answers to at max 2 minutes, at max. And that's if they're like, tell me about how good you are at processing payroll. And you need to go into like a deep story. But keep your answers brief. And I found that after a call, I would have a record or loose recollection of what I was asked. And then I'd type out something more concise. And then as I got more interviews, I would revisit those like, okay, I generally get asked these questions. How do I say it more quickly with more emphasis on what my skills and strengths are and come across more put together? So there was something about that exercise that's helped me and the people I've been working with to just like have better answers. Honestly, too, here's just like a tip to take with you for the rest of your life. When you bomb an interview, good. It's behind you. Okay? Let it go. Learn from it. Use it as a stepping stone. Don't berate yourself. Don't punish yourself because maybe you had a weird interview where you were talking way too long. And I've also had a problem where I like forget the question because my answers would be really long. So another tip here is as they are talking, if they mention something you want to remember to bring up later, write down a word on your little notebook as you're listening. Or as they're asking you the question, really pay attention, like listen. Again, I know this sounds like duh, but when you go into it with an active listening mindset, trying not to panic, remembering you're the director of the movie, it's easier to remember the questions. It's also okay to pause. You know, Elon Musk, if you ever see him do interviews, sometimes he pauses for a really long time. Now, he's Elon Musk. He could pause for 2 minutes and people are like, oh man, what is he going to say? When are we going to Mars, buddy? You don't have to jump into the answer right away. It's okay to be asked the question and take a moment and gather yourself. That's not weird. That's actually what a leader does. Or, you can put in the placeholder. I love that question. You don't say it for everyone because they'll start to realize you're buying yourself time every time they ask you something. You can't go, I love that question. But if you need some placeholders, oh, I love that question. Or no one's ever asked me that before. I'm really glad you asked that question because a lot of organizations don't. Say something, even if it's not true. Have some ready to go buffers and speak slower. When we're really nervous, we can tend to talk really, really, really fast and you may not even notice it because you're just rushing to get it out. I listened to old podcast episodes from my first show and old all hands when it was recorded and I spoke. My first public speaking gigs. I was talking a mile a minute. It is okay to pause on certain words and to leave space for emphasis, it's okay. It's like actually better because you have more time to think and they're able to hear more of what you have to say. Talk like you're talking to someone on the phone, like talk to one of your friends. Talk to someone like you're really comfortable with. Like pretend like you're talking to your mom or your neighbor. When you're talking to your friends out at brunch, you don't talk really fast because you're all nervous. You're not nervous around your friends. Talk like you would give someone advice. Pretend like this person's at a coffee shop and they're like, "Hey, have you ever processed payroll before?" And you can go, "Oh, I have. And here's what I've learned from it." Um, so speak slow, breathe, and really, the way to set yourself apart is to really ask some good questions about how the business is growing. The best HR leaders know how to speak fluent revenue. So even if you're new at this and you're maybe earlier in your career or you're later in your career and you're just now coming around to this idea, you will impress the socks out of someone when you say things like, what are the plans for the company to scale in the coming months and what conversations have happened around how to do that well? If they went through a layoffs, like what discussions have happened around what caused that layoff and how to avoid it in the future? Or how many customers do you have? What's the average deal size? Oh man, they probably won't know the answer, but they'll be like, oh, this person's speaking business. This person's going to be a stakeholder to the people and they speak business metrics. Whoa, this is a catch. You could ask questions like, what were your latest employee engagement survey results? And they'll be like, terrible. And you'll say, that's actually not uncommon. That's a good thing. That's a sign your workforce is talking to you. You could ask them, what's your annual recurring revenue? What's your MRR? That's monthly recurring revenue. That's the amount of money that's coming in on a monthly basis or at an annual basis that leaders are discussing to forecast future growth of any business. Those are metrics that are presented at the all hands. And if they're like, oh, it's proprietary, we can't tell you that, A, they either probably don't know and they're embarrassed, or B, if they really can't tell you because it's some kind of private sector government CIA lockdown thing, or they just don't want to tell you, you could say, that's okay. Just like give me a ballpark. I'm just curious the average deal size so I can understand like what level customers you're bringing in and how big the customer success team is based on the price of your products. Like, I'm just curious how much the average client would spend with you. If you're in manufacturing, that may not necessarily make sense. No, that would make sense. Even if you're in manufacturing, they'll tell you like, okay, we tend to have big customers who want, we make the boxes for Crest toothpaste, and that contract is about $7 million dollars a year or something like that. That's the kind of stuff you want to ask to show that you're curious about how the business functions. And if you have to fake it till you make it, do it. And then I'll teach you how to speak fluent revenue. I've got trainings on that. I've got a cheat sheet on that. Just send me a message on LinkedIn. But you're going to want to position yourself as a business person who sees the employees as the revenue drivers. So you're going to be talking about employee experience and why you're great at payroll or benefits, or you're a generalist, you do a little bit of everything. You're an HR director who's a visionary, but you still need to always be tying it back to how it drives the business forward for the long-term scalable success of the future. Asking questions about how the business is doing and how they track the health of the company. Ask them, what are the main metrics that you guys present at all hands? That's a good way if you don't want to jump into the deep seas of trying to use words like ARR or MRR or CAC, which is the cost to acquire a customer. That's a marketing metric. If you don't want to go out there yet, you just ask them, what type of metrics are typically presented at the all hands? Again, they're probably going to be stumped because who's ever been to an all hands that's like fun and engaging? They do exist. Those are the companies I'm working with. I'm helping them do it. They will tell you then where to lead the conversation because they'll say, oh, we talk about revenue, we talk about churn, which is when your customers leave. Then you can say, like, how many on average tend to come in every month? Is there a pattern there? What's your busy season? That's what's going to set you apart from everyone else. That's my main tip, is learning to speak fluent revenue and just showing that you've got those tools in your toolkit that will set you apart. But the rest of it is trying to stay calm and being gentle with yourself if you biff it. Do you know how many interviews I have messed up and walked out earlier in my career where I'm like, whoa, and I go sit in my car and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I even headed? But it works out. I look back and I'm like, oh man, she was trying her best and she was learning. So you never mess anything up. I swear to you, what's meant for you will find you, and you won't mess up the gig that's next. Even if it burns you out, it's leading you somewhere else. It's all for a reason. I don't believe that anything is just like by chance. I had so many jobs that I hated, but I'm so glad I had them because they were so important for me to learn certain things. But at the time, I thought it was a big old waste of time. So until you get into the next job that hopefully not, but will burn you out, we got to get you hired first. And what we've covered today will hopefully give you a new way of thinking about it so that you can be super gentle with yourself, kick it off with a nervous system that's not completely out of whack, and some questions to ask so that you don't panic. And then you say you don't have any, and then you look like a goofball who just needs a paycheck. And to take it even like to really drive it home, you now have a way of thinking about how to ask questions about the business that are going to make you seem like the no-brainer. And anything you can do to bond with every single person you meet with when you get past this phone screen, always do your due diligence for your panel interviews or whoever you're going to be talking to. Don't ever go into those blind. You're going to want to look up on their LinkedIn profile as you get to interview and interview. Figure out who this person is, how long have they worked at the company, something you have in common with them, and use their name. These are the soft skill ninja moves that get you promotions and get you opportunities that are kind of invisible feeling. These are the things that influential people are good at. And smile because people can hear it in your voice. The reason I told you to smile, even if you're on a video call or I'm sorry, a phone call, is because people can hear it in your voice. When you smile, you just come across like you're at ease and you put other people at ease. And that recruiter is bored and they're so excited that you're like enthusiastic and chill. Um, don't look like you're a POW of war being held at gunpoint, like, what's the next question? Pay attention to how you're coming across. Even if that seems like, oh, I'm not an extrovert, Christy, that's okay. This is still a skill that you need to be taken seriously in your career and to get people to respect you and to see you as a leader. You got to smile sometimes. Also, it's like a reminder to have fun. Whenever you feel yourself taking all of this too seriously, just remember to have fun. Go into the interview, be like, okay, she said, remember to have fun. That means just like connect with the person, answer the questions as best you can, and ride the waves. Don't fight them. If you remember to have fun, that takes the pressure off. And I know it's not fun to not have a paycheck and to have been doing this for like 18 months, but there's a reason you're not getting hired. Something's not right about how you're coming across. I know the job market is tough, but if you're great at what you do and you interview well, there's no reason we can't get you a job in the next weeks or months, okay? So hang in there, try some of those tips. You're doing great. No one tells you or teaches you this stuff. This show is exactly here for that reason. So, when you get hired or if you found a tip that was interesting, send me a message on LinkedIn and I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for listening.